Grab the duct tape and mentally prepare yourself for yet another mind-expanding knowledge bomb from America's #1 business coach, Clay Clark.
That's it. Bombs away.
All Thrive Nation, on today's show, we are answering the question that gets asked to me all the time as a business coach. The following question we're going to get into today, I have probably been asked this question thousands of times. At workshops, this is the most asked. People ask me a lot about how to market more effectively. They ask me a lot about how search engines work. They ask me how to sell stuff. And they ask me more than any other question. They always ask me, how do you hold people accountable? So on today's show, what I'm going to break down for you is why with every carrot, there must be a stick. For every hug, there must be a kick. And for every human, there must be a hell if you want to hold people accountable on the planet Earth. So think about this. We have three big concepts I want to get into today. Three big concepts. Concept number one, people have to want to work for you or they will not do the work. Concept number two, you have to hold people accountable all day, every day, or people will drift. And three, you can never stop recruiting or you will lose. So let's unpack this first concept today with Dr. Breck, Oklahoma's #1 chiropractor. So concept number one, people have to want to work for you or they will not do the work. Ken Blanchard, who's the best-selling author of The 1 Minute Manager, he's sold well over 20 million copies of his books throughout his lifetime. He writes, the people who work with you as their manager will look to you as one of their sources of wisdom. So essentially, if you're somebody's boss, your employees are going to come to you and ask you life questions. People want to know that their boss has life figured out, or at least more figured out than they do. They don't want to deal with a boss who has endless dysfunction. People want to work for a boss they can like and trust. Dr. Breck, talk to me about it, because you are an entrepreneur. You are a boss. You have a team. Mm-hmm. Can you explain to listeners out there how many employees you have on your team today?
We've got 10.
10. Now, can you picture in your mind, can you picture in your mind maybe an entrepreneur that you know who just can't keep their own life together, let alone lead a team?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you, as the boss over there at Dr. Breck Chiropractic, why do you have to be the mentor or the leader? Why can't you just delegate that off to someone else?
They have to have somebody to follow. It's my vision that they're helping me achieve. So, it's kind of a teamwork makes the dream work, not to sound too cliche, but
teamwork makes the dream work.
It's my dream. And so I'm building the team around me to help fulfill that dream.
Have you ever had somebody come to work for you who mm-hmm. used to work for one of your competitors, and the reason why they left is they said, I just don't like working for him or her? Have you ever had somebody come and join your team who just didn't like working for the other guy?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
This has happened to you?
It has.
For Elephant in the Room, our men's grooming lounge, I would say the vast majority of our employees mm-hmm. have come to work for us because they hear it's a positive culture,
right?
Where we have a weekly training, mm-hmm. an inspirational environment. We offer a lot of generous bonuses.
Right.
We offer consistent hours. They like the positivity.
Right.
But if you took the same business model and had a caustic culture of negativity, people would not want to work there.
Right.
I'm asking you today, if you're listening out there today, do you have an environment that is inspiring where people would actually want to come work for you? And you say, I don't know. Well, if you're really not sure, that's a problem. I think you are sure. I think you just need to be honest with yourself. On a scale of 1 to 10, mm-hmm. if 10 is a super positive culture and 1 is a toxic culture, rate your culture on a scale of 1 to 10 and ask yourself, what can you do to improve? And I'll go through the action items that you can do to improve your culture today. 1, the sights. People don't want to work in an office that's just gross to look at. They want to work in an inspirational and aspirational environment. The sounds, the overhead music. Mm-hmm. The overhead music creates an entirely different vibe. And if you want to grab my overhead music, my playlist that I've curated, that I've created, you can stream my playlist by simply going to eitrlounge.com. That's eitrlounge.com. And then click on Clay Clark Radio. And that is the overhead music that I play in all of my businesses. And every week I add more songs to that list. It's very positive. It's upbeat, up-tempo. You can get that playlist again by going to eitrlounge.com. The sights, the sounds, the smells. Dr. Breck, have you ever had a job back in the day where you worked in a place that smelled gross?
You don't want to know all the places I've worked. Absolutely. I did some janitorial work.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me give you an example. We had an employee who worked with us about 4 years ago who didn't take showers.
Okay. Yeah.
So here's my rule. I like to get a shower in every day before 9. You know?
At least one.
I like to.
Yeah.
But I do know people that don't. And this guy would not take showers.
Yeah.
And really good salesperson. And it's probably the third
over the phone, not face to
over
face.
the phone.
Yeah.
And probably the third or fourth week he was with me. I went into his workstation area, and it had like Cheeto crumbs and like a like the remainder of a sandwich, but it was under stuff.
Right.
And I'm going. So I pulled the guy aside. I said, "Dude, you are creating like an ecosystem like that. Have you seen your sandwich?" He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, It's growing a thing on it.
Yeah.
Like it's like a fungi.
Here's penicillin.
He says, "Oh my gosh, I was wondering where that was." That kind of stuff. Just not even concerned about it.
Right. He was too busy selling.
And he smelled awful.
Yeah.
So we had multiple ladies who came to me and said, "I do not want to work next to him."
Right.
And if your whole office smelled like that, it'd be a bad deal. So the sights, the sounds, the smells, the mentorship. Now, the mentorship has to be an intentional thing that you do. I would recommend to every single listener out there today that you schedule a 1-hour weekly meeting with your team, 1 hour a week, for the specific purposes of mentoring your team, teaching your team, coaching your team, guiding your team. And I also would recommend that you have daily huddles. If you don't have a daily huddle with your team will drift. The sights, the sounds, the smells, the mentorship, the location. Dr. Breck, you're in the process of looking to buy a building.
Correct.
Why can't you just buy a building in a far, remote, distant land and expect to be able to attract high-quality people?
We've got to kind of keep a geographical footprint of where we're at. People know, where we're at in Tulsa. They come from all over.
Where are you located?
We're at 51st and Sheridan, just south of the Farm Shopping Center.
51st and Sheridan. What's the address? This is
5401 South Sheridan.
5401 South Sheridan. The Thrivers can Google it and check it out there.
Suite 105. Yeah.
If you, though, officed like in the hood,
right,
wouldn't it be hard to find employees that are good?
Well, it's going to be hard to find employees. It's going to be hard to get patients to come to the hood.
Somebody out there needs to hear this. Yeah. There's somebody listening right now, and to save money, they've decided to locate in the hood, and they're having a hard time finding employees
who are good. Or just that office that's back in the back that the Google Maps can't find. That's also a challenge.
Are you speaking of Fontana?
Maybe.
Have you been to Fontana?
I have.
Have you spent
I've gotten lost in Fontana for a few
There's
hours.
like a fountain in the middle, and I don't know. There's always there's always like a tailor shop or a little like a company that sells like off-brand drones or a T-shirt printing company, and they're always just going out of business.
Right.
I don't think that thing has ever been full.
Not that I've seen.
What about that shopping center over there at 51st and Memorial, where Fridays used to be? You know where Fridays used to be?
Yeah.
61st Memorial. 61st Memorial. You know how like you could see Fridays?
Yep.
And that did well for a long time. But there was always stuff behind it that you could never see from the road. I just want to encourage you out there today, do an audit of these things and ask yourself, do the sights, the sounds, the smells, the mentorship, the location. Now, the next
I have to compliment you, though.
What's that?
Because if you guys listening have not been to the Thrivetime offices, this place is energetic. The music is great. I mean, there's an energy and a buzz all the time. Of course, the smell, the first thing I can come up with is the pinion wood. Because you're walking in the front door, and it's right there at the door. So, I mean, immediately your senses are on high alert. And there's a buzz. There's energy. The aesthetic. I love it. It's fun. It
kind of feels like an Austin bar.
Yeah,
like you're at a bar in Austin.
It's a place you want to go and hang out.
Starting and we're about 2 years away from it, but we'll be moving into a new facility there,
really?
And we'll be probably purchasing a building. I'm looking at maybe downtown Broken Arrow, but it's got to have the mojo.
Yeah.
The place has to have the aura.
Have the mojo downtown.
Yeah, the mojo. You got to get that mojo.
But they got it going now. It's a cool place to be.
Now, if you're out there listening today and you're saying, okay, I got this first concept. I have to make people want to work for me, okay, or they're not going to do their job. Great, okay. Now, the second is let's assume that you're doing all those. You're checking all the boxes. You got the sights, the sounds, the smells, the mentorship, the location. But now people aren't doing their job. You're like, I am providing all of these things, but people are still not doing their job. Concept number 2. You must hold people accountable all day, every day, or people will drift. Now, Jack Welch wrote, he said, face reality as it is. not as it was or as you wish it to be. This is a guy who grew the company, GE, by 4,000%. He says, face reality as it is, not as it was or as you wish it to be. Now, here's an observation I have for you. I've been coaching businesses for, 13 years now, and I've discovered that by default, most employers, not you, but most employers struggle with holding their teams accountable to performing at a certain level. It's just kind of like a certain level of excellence. If most managers and leaders are being honest, they're typically allowing bad behaviors, attitudes, or it's just the overall performance is beginning to drift. And then what happens is you just let it go, and then you freak out. You let it go, and you're like, oh, Joel Osteen, everybody, how we doing? Mm-hmm. Carl's not following the sales script. Sharon's late all the time. Carl's not following the system. Sharon's late. Doug talks back to you. Somebody is parking in your parking space. Somebody's parking in the employee of the month space. Somebody changed the playlist. Someone's not doing their job. Someone's not responding to emails. And then you freak out.
Right.
But what you want to do every day is you just want to hold people accountable on a daily basis. Dr. Breck, how do you hold your team accountable on a daily basis? And how have you learned to become better at that?
Yeah, I didn't used to be that great at that. But I think also, honestly that the employees want that framework. They want to know what the expectations are. They want to know how can they succeed. And when they know clear expectations, then I think they're better able to succeed in that environment. And it is that, I mean, we work very closely together, so we can do it kind of on the fly regularly, like, hey, for instance, I had a situation where the phone was ringing, and it was just ringing. And we had people available to answer the phone.
But they weren't.
But they were on another task, and we have this big deal about, priority task.
Got it.
So the patient is always the highest priority, the patient in front of you.
Got it.
But that person that's ringing the phone is also a patient or potential patient. And so they become the priority if you're not with somebody. And so I just had to say, answer the phone. Like, this is simple.
Answer the phone. Answer the phone. Come on.
Yeah.
Now, here is so do all your employees wear scrubs?
They do.
Okay. Do you wear scrubs?
I do. They're so comfortable.
So all your employees wear scrubs, and you wear scrubs.
Yes.
Well, that's going to make it easier for you then. But for a lot of businesses out there, they have a job like our hair, our hair
we
salon.
Wear the scrubs. We've had that be an issue in the past.
So we at the Elephant in the Room, we have a uniform that everyone has to wear.
Right.
Now, let me tell you what happens with the uniform. It's about, I try to give examples that are old enough where it's not too soon.
Right.
But also ones that are current enough to be relevant.
Sure.
But it's about, I'll say 2 years ago.
Okay.
And we had a young lady who, came to work at Elephant in the Room, and she dressed conservatively during that first interview.
Right.
And she's cutting people's hair. And we do shampoo, we do haircuts. And I did not see, because I don't go to that particular store.
Right.
But she wore like the lowest cut, we'll call it the cleavage buffet. There was no way it could be called anything else. It was like a cleavage buffet, like an unbelievable display. And she was just she's like, this is going to be my way to get extra tips, I guess.
Right.
It was like she thought she worked at Hooters.
Right.
And it was crazy. Mm-hmm. Well, her boss, who's a guy, didn't want to make it awkward.
Right.
He was like, so he calls me, hey, we got a situation going down. And I said, what's going down? He says, this is the deal. It's a weird deal. It's a weird vibe. Here's the deal. Our employee is not dressed appropriately. I go, what are they wearing? He goes, it's not appropriate, and I need to have you come on down here and talk to him. I said, about what? Can't you just talk to us? No. You need to go talk to this person.
You need to see what I'm having to
because I feel uncomfortable even talking to the person about it because it's so. And I said, why can't you just talk to her? Just say, what is it? Was she wearing jeans? She can't wear a certain kind of jeans, or what is the deal? What is she actually doing that's so crazy? I just come down here. So I drove out to South Tulsa.
And you're still not sure what you're walking into.
Seriously. And then this Jerry Seinfeld line came to my mind at the moment I saw the situation. Jerry Seinfeld says this: looking at cleavage is like looking at the sun. You don't stare at it. It's too risky. You get a sense of it, and then you look away. And that's what I was thinking. I'm like, I can't even talk to this person.
Right.
So I had to grab a female member of the team and me. I said, hey, you see what's going on here? Let's go meet. So it was another female on the team, myself, and this girl. And I said, can you guys have the talk about dressing conservatively? And the girl who has the display of the cleavage buffet, she goes, about what? And I'm like, we need to dress conservatively. Oh, yeah, I know. I agree. I'm like, okay. And then I had to have the female employees like, here's the deal. We are seeing way too much of you, and we need that to stop. And she's like, oh, well, what do you mean? And it was just where the employee was trying to act ignorant. That's a move.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Do you not have people that have tried to play off their perpetual lateness like it's no big deal?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of stuff do you see? I think passive aggressiveness is a huge issue in business. I see people that show up late, 7 minutes, 8 minutes late every day, and go, "Hi, what's going on?" Like they try to play it off.
Oh, that's a problem.
Oh, it's a problem.
I didn't realize.
How do you confront passive aggressiveness as an entrepreneur now?
Well, now I just meet things head on. I try to deal with them in the moment, but also we have even in our small organization we have levels of hierarchy. So I've got the office manager, and if there's certain things that they need to take care of, then they do. But we also have like a lead massage therapist that, it's like, hey, this is an issue among therapists, and we need to deal with it. And so if I need to be the one to talk to him directly, I pull him in my office. We have a private conversation.
Have you ever had a massage therapist play the game of dressing risque? Have you ever had that happen?
Well, we require scrubs.
Okay, so you nipped that in the bud.
Yeah, we have had. And they still, some will try, like, okay, we have T-shirts that we wear on Fridays.
Right.
And so we had some that they would wear a T-shirt, but it wasn't clean, and so I wore my other shirt. And it's like, no. That's not happening again.
That's not a move. Yeah. Now, Michael Levine, the PR consultant for Michael Jackson, for Prince, for Nike, President Bush, President Clinton, and myself, Michael Levine, my good friend Michael Levine, he says this. He says, people are drawn to wisdom, but most of us only respond to fear.
Yeah.
People are drawn to wisdom, but most only respond to fear. So again, let's review these big concepts. One, people have to want to work for you. So you got to have the sights, the sounds, the smells, the mentorship, the location. That has to happen. Sights, sounds. I'm trying to write those down. Sights, sounds, smells. Give me time to write it down. Mentorship in a location that's inspiring. But the second is you must hold people accountable. And you must understand that if you don't hold people accountable on a daily basis, they're going to drift. Now, concept number 3, you must never stop recruiting or you will lose. You will lose. You will lose. You will lose so much because you don't have any options. Once you have clearly communicated the expectations and you have clearly reprimanded somebody and you have clearly attempted to hold them accountable, eventually you have to move on. If somebody can't get it done, they won't get it done, they choose not to do it, you've got to move on. So there are 5 action steps I want all the listeners to take. Now, what I'm going to do is I am going to tee up the action step, and I'm going to have Dr. Breck explain why it is so important, okay? So action step number 1, you must schedule a weekly time to meet with your teammates, to celebrate the wins, sharing the vision, educating the team, inspiring the team. Dr. Breck, why do you have to get that FaceTime with your employees every week?
Well, they've got to know where you're going. Things do change and things shift, and so you may have communicated your vision at some point, but it's got to grow and it's got to move. It's a living, breathing thing, and so they need to hear from you. Even
with you buying a new building, don't you have to communicate with the team like, hey, this is where we're going to stick? Well, this is the part of town we're going to stick within.
Yeah.
Hey, we're not moving to Bixby.
Right. Yeah,
hey,
I've
guys,
kept them in the loop on all of it. This is kind of where we're at in the process, and it's been a long process. So it's like, hey, this isn't lip service. Stick with me. We're finding the right situation, but we're not going to move until it's right. And so, if there's any frustration, I want to communicate that we're not sitting still. We're just making sure it's the right move.
This is a notable quotable from Jack Welch that I think is perhaps one of the most profound quotes that he's ever had. He said, good business leaders create a vision, articulate the vision, passionately own the vision, and relentlessly drive it to completion. Now, I'm going to give the listeners an example of what I'm working on right now that is relentless, all right? Relentless, unrelenting. I'm going to pull this up, Dr. Breck, and I'm going to show it to you, and I want you to get your thoughts on this. If you are thinking about, have you and your wife ever gone to a business conference outside of our Thrivetime show conference?
We did kind of a chiropractic management conference years ago.
Okay.
But not So yes and no.
Okay, well, let's just say this. If you were going to go to a business conference, what would you search? What would you type into Google if you're going to if you were looking to go to a business conference, what would you type in?
Like best business conference.
You would type that in?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do a Google search here for best business conference on Google. I'll pull that up here. I did a search, and right now we come up number 2 in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you just type in the word business conference, right now, if you're in Oklahoma, we're on the first page, but if you're like in New York, we're not.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you know what the difference is of being on page 4 of Google, 3 of Google, or page 2 of Google versus page 1? It's profound.
It's huge. Yeah.
So, do you want to guess? Let me tee up the parameters. Every time that we recorded a video, every time I've done a podcast, I have transcribed every single show.
Right.
Every single one of them. And it used to cost $2 a minute to transcribe when I started this like 6 years ago. Do you want to guess how much money I have spent on transcribing content over the years? Because again, you get to be the top of Google. Whoever has the most content gets to be top. That's how it works. Whoever has the most content gets to be top.
Right.
So how many pages of content, how many shows or videos do you think I've transcribed?
Thousands. I couldn't even begin to guess.
According to Google as of today, it's 7,390.
Wow.
Now, this is what's interesting. How much money do you think I've spent on transcribing it? Now, it used to be $2 a minute. How much money? Because, again, I want to be page 1 in Google for the phrase business conferences, because we have over 1,000 positive reviews on YouTube. We have over 1,000 reviews on iTunes. And we have over 500 reviews of our workshop on Google at this point, on the Google map. So we have over 2,500 reviews so far.
Right.
I guess we have Facebook too. So we're probably sitting at almost 2,000 reviews overall. The food's good. People love the conference, but they can't find it. If they can't find it, they're not going to get to it. So how much do you think I have spent on transcribing content on the Thrivetime show?
You said like 8,000 videos nearly?
Yep.
And podcasts?
6 years, about 6 years.
6 years? Oh, man. So
used to be $2 a minute.
Yeah, $2 a minute, and we're talking, probably minimum of 15-minute, time slots.
And I'm not trying to paint you in a corner.
Hours. I mean,
I'm
making me do tough math here.
I'm just trying to. I'm 6 years into it.
Yeah.
Well, how much money do you think I've spent so far? Now we're page 1 in Google.
Right.
If you type in business conferences in Oklahoma.
Right.
And if you type in best business conference, we're page 1.
Yeah.
We're page 2 now. 6 years I've been working on it. There are no shortcuts. It's whoever has the most reviews, the most content, the most mobile compliance, and the most web compliance. How much money do you think I've spent so far?
Oh, goodness. I mean, this has to be tens of thousands.
It's over $1 million.
It's over $1 million.
Yes.
Oh, I was going to say
over
like
$1 million.
Over $1 million.
Over $1 million on my content so far. Over $1 million. And do you know why I'm so relentless about doing this?
Why?
You've probably seen when you walk in, I have a little a pyramid on by the bar, and it says Mentor Millions.
Yeah.
That's the goal. And in order to do that, we have to be top in Google.
Right.
Now, do you want to guess how many employees have came to work for me at Thrive and have left because they didn't? Again, how many employees have started with the company and left the company en route 6 years now?
How many do you have at a time? Like how many? You've got a big business going.
There's about 50 people in our office, and then outside of the office, Elephant, there's about 100. So between Dr. Z and I, there's 400 or 500 people, but about 150 of them call me boss.
Okay.
But how many people do you think at the Thrive team I've gone through or transitioned or have started and stopped en route to page 1 of Google? Because remember, once I hit page 1 of Google for the phrase business conferences, once I hit that, how many people do you think search page 2 of Google for the phrase business conferences? How many people do you think a month?
It's got to drop off dramatically.
It's like less than 50.
Okay.
How many people a month do you think search business conferences and go to page 1 search results?
Oh, how many you search? I'll say there's probably like 3,000 searches for
You're about
business
right.
conferences.
Yeah. So there are thousands of people searching on page 1.
Yeah.
And there are dozens on page 2.
Yeah. Right.
But there's no way to cheat the system. It's whoever has the most content, the most reviews, the most mobile compliance, the most canonical compliance. How many employees do you think how many coders have started, stopped, graphic designers and video people? I mean, how many people have said, Clay, I'm in on your vision to mentor millions? Because they can picture it. They're like, dude, We're going to have thousands of people at the conferences. We're going to be topping Google. Your podcast is going to be topping the world. How many do you think I've pushed through? How many employees have started and left over the last 6 years, do you think?
10,000. I mean, you don't put up with nonsense. So I know that there's going to be some turnover there that people are like, hey, I bought in, but I'm not really here.
We're over a couple hundred.
Yeah.
A couple hundred employees who have started and stopped. Now, this is even more deep thoughts for you. How many guests do you think that I invite to be on the show every week? Now, I think about this. We had Clayton Christensen, the head of Harvard's business school, on the show. We just recorded him. We just booked John Maxwell for February 5th.
Awesome.
We have I could go. There's so many huge names. We've had Justin Forsett, NFL player. We've had Paul Pressey, had the NBA's official photographer, Lee Cockrell, the manager of Walt Disney World, the number one PR consultant in the world, Michael Levine. We've had Jill Donovan. We've had some huge people. I think we've had right now up to over 100 New York Times best-selling authors on the show. How many? We have Shep Gordon. He is the manager for huge names. Like he works with Michael Douglas and Sylvester Stallone and Alice Cooper. How many guests a week do you think I invite to be on the show? Now we have 9 shows we put out a week. We put out 9.
Talking, like right now, currently.
Currently, we put out 9 shows a week. How many people do you think that
I think they're begging to come on your show. Well, I think they want to come to you. I don't know that you're having to ask them.
Well, okay. Let me tee it up here. We've got John Maxwell coming up here. We have Jeff Bethke coming up here. Dale Partridge. We've got Dan Millman coming up. We got some huge names. Nick Simmons, Olympic athlete, will be speaking at our conference. How many do you think a week that I invite?
I mean, I would say to fill up. Because you're on the air 7 days a week.
We got 9 shows a week.
Yeah,
we're doing
nine shows a week. So I mean, to get the right content, the right people for 9 shows a week. It's got to be dozens of people that you work through to ask.
Oh, I'm going to tell you this. Your first guess is wrong.
What's wrong? Okay.
I would like for you to guess again. How many guests a week do we invite on the show? This is for a chance to win a mega point. All right, here we go. All right, what do you think? How many people?
Okay, so my first guess was wrong, but am I like way off or?
Can't tell you.
Oh.
Couldn't do that. That takes the joy out of this game. All right.
For you.
Right. How many people do you think here?
Okay.
Here we go.
All right. So my very first guess,
yep.
or the
very first guess was not accurate.
Okay.
It was a good guess though. It was a good guess. Always a good guess. There's no bad guessing.
Okay. Hundreds.
900 a week.
900 a week.
That's my quota.
Wow.
Yeah. So let me show you my list real quick so you can see it. Okay. This is my list. I'm just trying to show you. We won't mention the names on the list right now. These are people that I have read their book or have learned about. I'm excited about. I want to have them on the show.
You're a voracious reader.
So like Brian Grazer, this guy. Oh gosh, this guy. He is the guy. Have you ever seen the movie Apollo 13 or Beautiful Mind?
Yes.
He's the guy who writes the movies.
Mm-hmm.
This guy has not agreed to be on the show yet.
Why not?
Meta World Peace.
Brian,
remember
if you're listening, you got to come on the show.
Come on. What about Meta World? Remember Ron Artest, the basketball player?
Yeah.
Now his name is Meta World Peace.
Right.
We haven't had him on the show yet.
And yet he didn't go to North Korea.
Hey, we have
He could have gone with Dennis Rodman.
I have invited Dennis Rodman, and I have not heard back yet. So I've invited. Huge names. But again, I invite 900 guests a week to be on the show every single week.
That's impressive.
Now I have a list of about 4,000 people, and we cycle through that list every month. But again, you've got to be relentless. Thrivers, I don't think we're being relentless enough. I think we're inviting, a couple dozen people a week. We got to invite 900.
Yeah.
Now, up until 2 years ago, do you want to guess, of those 900, how many people per week said yes? If I invited 900 people a week, up until 2 years ago, how many said yes? Out of those 900 per week.
I like even math. I'm going to say it's a multiple of 3, so we're going to go with 3.
We averaged, that was very, very good guess. We averaged between 2 and 3.
Okay.
Holy cow!
Now,
I needed a win there.
Now, if we got even 9 out of 900, that would only be 1%. Which means that I only had 0.2% of people saying yes. Now, out of the 900 that we invite, guess how many say yes typically right now?
12.
You're right.
Wow.
That's right. So
Thank you.
What's happening now, though, is we've had to stop inviting that many people
right.
A week.
Yeah,
and we've had to get down to like 900 a month because we are now. I am booked out. I'll show you the upload list. I'm booked out here until February the 8th. No, February the 12th right now.
I felt honored to be on here. I'll be honest, but I'm feeling like super honored now.
Well, we're excited, man. Your business is booming, and it's fun to have a real life case study of a guy who's taken his business to the next level. Yeah. And now
I'm an open book. So
action items. We got 5 action items. One is you must schedule a weekly time to meet with your teammates. Action item number 2, you must schedule a weekly meeting to look at your numbers. Dr. Breck, why do you have to look at your numbers every week?
Well, you got to see where you're going. You got to see the trends to know where things are at so that you can adjust and move and make things happen. You don't want to sit back and catch those things late.
Let me walk the listeners through some of the numbers that I track every week, and maybe this is helpful for the listeners out there. I always check the number of reviews every week because it's very important for me to know how we're doing. The reviews are not 100% true every time. Some people write reviews that are like we had a former employee who quit, who then went on to Glassdoor and wrote that he was sexually harassed.
Wow.
Well, the problem is the person who was his boss is like a very small person of the opposite sex.
Right.
And he is a very large man who's physically buff.
Right.
So 1, it could not have happened.
Right.
2, it did not happen. But 3, the other side of the story is he called me and said, if you will pay me X amount of money, I'll take it down. So, but it's good for me to know about that.
Blackmail.
There it is. So reviews is important. I also want to know total gross sales.
Right.
Very important. I also want to know my expenses for the week. Very important. And I want to know my profit for the week.
Yeah.
Now, if you know those things, it puts you in a situation of empowerment.
Sure.
Now, if you put your head in the sand, Dr. Breck, and you don't look at your numbers for like a month or 3 months, or some people don't look at it for a year. You know how I know if someone hasn't looked at their numbers for a year?
How do you know?
If they were a client 2 years ago and they call me and ask me to send them all of the charges that I charged them from 2015 or 2016.
They haven't been paying attention.
I know they're having a tax problem.
Right.
Seriously, because now they have to pay and they're going,
where can I find something
to write off? That's what happens. So I can tell. And the average American business owner does not look at their numbers weekly. No, they don't.
That surprises me.
They don't. Now, again, what kind of numbers do you like to track in your office?
We like to track our patient numbers, how many people we see, how many new patients we see per day, per week. We track the money that's collected over the counter. We track the insurance is obviously a big deal because we have to reconcile patient accounts as well. Got it. So, and then we also track our massage therapist numbers, missed appointments. I think more information the better. So I'm a little nerdy and a little analytical, and so I probably gather more information than I need, but I'd rather have it, not need it.
Now, on a daily basis, action item number 3, on a daily basis, I would encourage everybody out there to look at your daily goals and your key performance indicators to see if your team is on track. And if not, call them out and reset on a daily basis. Now, weekly, look at all the big numbers, but daily. So let me give you an example of a daily reset. You walk into the bathroom, you go, that's dirty, clean it.
Right.
You look at the voicemails and you go, someone didn't call them back, fix it. You get your inbox down to 0. There's daily resets. Dr. Breck, why do you have to have these old daily huddles, these old daily resets, no matter how good of a team you have?
Well, I think it's what you do daily that makes the difference, long term. So, it's requiring excellence on a daily basis. At the end of the week, you've got excellence. At the end of the month, you have excellence. At the end of the year, you have excellence. And so if you're doing it on the small things, who can be trusted with little will be given much. I've heard that somewhere in the Bible. So, I think that's where it's really important is if you're not doing the little things well, you can't do the big things well.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs have their head in their it's a certain orifice. It would be like I don't know how I don't understand maybe because you're more in tune with the human body. You're a chiropractor. You really know what's going on. I'm not sure how it's possible, but certain people appear to be able to have the flexibility needed to put their cranium inside their rectum. And it's amazing.
Chiropractic care was required.
And it's amazing the flexibility to do that. But an example would be if you don't look at your numbers like weekly, your head's in your rectum. Now, if you look
I
at
think
your
it's 'cause
numbers,
you don't want to know. I mean, it's got to be by
Right.
choice. You just don't want to know how bad this situation really is.
but I think a lot of entrepreneurs do that. I mean, 9
Well,
out of 10 businesses fail. 9 out of 10 businesses.
Right.
9 out of 10 businesses fail.
Oh,
That's so encouraging. 9 out of 10 businesses fail. Now, what's crazy is of the 1 out of 10 businesses that make it, from my personal one-on-one experience working with clients,
right,
seeing people at conferences, just meeting thousands of business owners,
right.
I believe that of the 1 out of 10 that make it, the 10%, I believe that only 1 out of 10 that survive ever achieve time or financial freedom.
That's probably true.
Like
yeah.
if you did not receive some major coaching and some major strategic business coaching, how long were you in business? Explain to the Thrivers out there how long you were in business, stuck in that doom loop of working all the time. How long were you stuck in that doom loop?
I was stuck from 2004 to 2009, so 5 years.
5 years.
I was really stuck before my first coach that really started to help get me on track.
And what did that doom loop look like for you? What kind of doom loop? Were you just working every second of every day? Were you not making any money? What did that look like?
Well, I mean, I'm my own worst enemy. I think that the story of Little Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf.
Yeah.
That wolf is probably actually within us, and there's no real physical wolf. Like I was eating the cookies on the way to Grandma's house. It was me. It wasn't some exterior wolf. And so I'm my own worst enemy. So I was holding myself back. I was doing all kinds of negative self-talk and wallowing in my misery, and reached out to a mentor and asked, how do I fix this? And he's like, go to work harder. I'm like, but what do I do? I'm trying to work hard, but what do I do? And so I needed the action, like tangible action steps, like give me a task to do today that I can put my hands to work on doing that. But I mean, I had to borrow money from family members. Thank you, Dad.
Big shout out to your dad.
I owe you. I mean, it was tough on my wife. She's a school teacher, and we were living paycheck to paycheck every month, trying to rob Peter to pay Paul.
Got it.
And not fun at all.
And you're a doctor. You're a chiropractor.
Yeah, it's embarrassing.
Now, Dr. Breck, talk to me about since you've worked with Tim the last about year and a half, 2 years,
about a year, just over a year now.
What kind of changes have you made, and how has it impacted your overall profitability or growth?
Well, I'm happy to report that December of 2018 we had our highest grossing month. So I'm super excited about that.
Ever. Whoa, that deserves. You know what? That deserves
Wins of the week.
That's a win of the week. Dr. Breck celebrating a sales record here. A new year, a new you. How is it possible? He's a diligent doer. So what kind of practical changes have you made?
Oh, man. Well, we had to look at our price structure. So, we have to be honest with the value and what it costs to deliver services. And we can't continue to give away services, for free or losing money on them. And so that was one of the big steps. We also had to get rid of toxic employees or even contractors. In our case, the massage therapists are self-employed contractors. But
little warning about therapists, by the way. The only difference between the rapist and a therapist is a space.
Yeah.
Just think about it. Okay, back to you.
That reminds me of Sean Connery on
right.
Saturday Night Live.
Right. Now, okay, so other changes you've made this year. What other changes you made? You fixed the pricing.
I was non-existent on our SEO. I mean,
search
I
engine.
literally is non-existent.
Not findable.
I mean, you may have found me if you put my name in exactly spelled correctly. You might have found me on like 20 pages back.
Got it. But now you got all the content, all the tags, all the Google reviews.
Yeah, that all started from scratch, and we now have like 257 reviews, and we're climbing the Google search engine each day. So.
I was doing a search for you. Was it yesterday? And I think you were over 250. Let me pull it up real quick. 257. You're right. 257 Google reviews. And so, are you having people that are finding you online now?
Yes. And that's a nice new thing. People come in and are like, "Hey, I saw your reviews."
Are you up? Are you up 10% more than last year? 20%? What percentage are you up now?
We're up. So it fluctuates a little bit, but I mean, literally from like a year and a half ago to now, we're up double.
Double.
Yeah.
Now, have you changed or improved your sales scripting or your sales processes at all?
We have. Yeah. We very intensely went over a lot of scripting and things. But then also we do have a no-brainer offer.
Yeah.
And so the conversion aspect of that, to go from, hey, this is all free, to I do expect you to pay me at some point, getting a better conversion script for me to work from has also been very helpful.
And then you, from an HR perspective, hiring people, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but most people, most clients we've worked with, most doctors we work with before, business owners, before they come into our program, have a hard time finding good people.
Mm-hmm.
And then after they're in the program, that's usually not a problem anymore.
Right.
Is that the case with you? Are you doing good on finding people, or how have you changed your recruitment process?
Yeah, so just before starting working with Tim, we had some change up and some people left on their own accord, and they were about to have that conversation anyway, so it worked out. Nice timing. So we've brought on some great people in the last year, and now we're operating from a totally different way of thinking about that, with not being held captive and a hostage in my own office.
And how do you feel now? I mean, do you and your wife, does it feel better? Do you have more pride about the business now that you're more profitable? Do
Absolutely.
You feel? I mean, on a daily basis,
I see the difference in her eyes too.
Really?
Yeah. I've been a doctor for the last 15 years, but to be a successful doctor's kind of a little better.
Right. All right. Okay. Now, this next action step we need to take here. These are all action steps we need to take if you want to hold your team accountable. You have to document issues. You got to document wins.
Yep.
You got to document issues, and you got to document wins. It's so important that you do this, because if you don't do this, what's going to happen is, the really fun guy in the office, the nice guy, you're going to forget about all the crazy stuff he's doing.
Right.
Or the person who's a little more introverted, who is stacking up wins.
Right.
You're going to skip over their wins. So it becomes a personality contest. That's where they say it's all political.
Yeah.
So you want to document wins and issues as you see them.
Right.
And again, I have a write-up form that all the listeners, if you sign up today for a Thrivetime show, if you go to thrivetimeshow.com, and you book a ticket to the conference, it's $250, but you also get access to all of the downloadables, which would include thousands of videos. And then we have all of these forms, like the legally compliant employee write-up form.
Right.
You could pay an attorney $2,000 just for that document, $500 for documents like that. That is available to you if you do sign up for thrivetimeshow.com today. It's $20 a month, $250 a year. You get to come to the workshop, get the videos. Have you ever seen the downloadables? Have you seen these? There's so many.
Yeah.
I mean, for everything. So documenting people is documenting wins and issues. As soon as they happen, you want to write the person up, and then you want them to sign on the write-up form, and you sign. That way there's proof that it did happen.
Right.
And I would recommend, if possible, you would have a third party there at all times and have them initial as well. That way people can never claim that conversation did not happen. Now, Jack Welch says this. He says, if you pick the right people and give them the opportunity to spread their wings and put compensation as a carrier behind it, you almost don't have to manage them. And I 100% agree with that. I think that once you have great people, it gets significantly easier to run your company. So if you have a team right now with a bunch of dysfunctional people, I would encourage you to hire your way out of it and then to fire those people. Action step number 5, the final action step. Schedule a weekly time to interview new candidates. Because at a certain point, if you don't have any options in terms of firing somebody, you're stuck. So you've got to schedule time to look for those new candidates. Dr. Breck, why do you have to be intentional about scheduling time every week to meet with new candidates? Why can't you not wait until you need somebody, quote unquote?
You're going to save yourself time, honestly. When you actually add up the hours of going, interview to interview, raking over resume after resume, it's a lengthy process. And so the group interviews in the end saves you time. It may feel initially like you're spinning your wheels or you're spending time that you don't have, but in the end, one, you have that freedom you're talking about,
right? But
you're also saving yourself time in the long run. It's an investment.
Now, here is my final notable quotable I want to give the listeners today. And as I read this notable quotable, I'm going to cue up some some epic music so you can think about it and kind of marinate on it and go, what does this mean? Jack Welch. Remember, this is the CEO who grew GE by 4,000%. The company did not grow before he got there. And after he left, the company quit growing. So his systems definitely worked. He says this: the final relationship that cannot be ignored is with disruptors. These are individuals who cause trouble for sport, inciting opposition to management for a variety of reasons, most of them petty. Usually these people have good performance, and that's their cover. And so they are endured or appeased. Endured or appeased. Think about that word for a second. What does it mean to endure? What does it mean to appease? When you say, I'm going to appease somebody, what does that mean? Endured, what does that mean? It means to suffer through something. You're suffering. You started a business so that you can have time freedom and financial freedom, and you've got a cancerous jackass in your office who happens to be good at coding. And so you're giving him his paid time off all the time. You're giving your top sales guy all the concessions. You're letting people talk back to you in your own business, and you're appeasing them because what? They're good at their job. A company that manages people well takes disruptors head on. Jack Welch says, usually these people have good performance. That's their cover. And so they're endured or appeased. But a company that manages people will take disruptors head on. First, they will give them very tough evaluations, naming their bad behavior and demanding it to change. Usually it won't. Disruptors are a personality type. If that's the case, get them out of the way of the people trying to do their jobs. These people are poison. Somebody listening today, you've got a disruptor in your office right now. Yeah, you do. And what's happening is you're letting them get away with murder because they're good at their job, and that is creating a toxic hypocrisy of an office, and it's killing your culture. And it's easy. Let me tell you this: if you have more than 50 employees, the game changes, and having just one bad apple will ruin the entire team. It will. Just having one weed will kill the entire garden. Having one cancerous growth in your business will choke out all of the life. So if you are in a business with about 50 people, this just cannot be allowed to fester, right? But if you had one bad person out of a group of 50, that's, 2% of your workforce? Now, if you have 10 employees and you've got one that's caustic, one that's cancerous, one that's negative, pessimistic, sarcastic, that means 10% of your team is a disaster. So again, if you're asking the question today, how do I hold my team accountable? This is how you do it. This is the process. This is the system. And Dr. Breck is proof that in a year and a half, you've made some serious changes. What advice would you give for anybody out there listening right now who's on the fence this new year, knew them? They're going, I'm on the fence about, I've heard about getting a coach. I don't know. What would you say to anybody out there who's listening today who's on the fence about hiring a coach?
So this is something that I was shared with me just a few days ago, and it was kind of a cool thought, and it was helpful or hurtful phrases for the new year, and you add this phrase to the end, and it tells you if you're unsure. So I don't know about getting a coach, and that's the way I want it to be. Like it's empowering because you realize it's your choice, but you need a coach. Everybody needs a coach. So somebody else who has eyes on it from 30,000 foot view. If you're hitting a plateau, if you want to push to the next level, if you want to, I don't always get it right. And so I need somebody else who's helping to evaluate me. I'm the boss, I'm the owner, but I also need somebody to say, hey, we can do better here. And so that's what a great coach does. I
want to share with the listeners something that's pretty powerful. Bill Campbell, I talk about Bill Campbell on the show, but not enough. If, like the automotive industry, some say that was founded by Henry Ford, or if the light bulb industry was founded by, people would say, Thomas Edison, business coaching was founded by Bill Campbell. Now, Bill Campbell was the business coach of, think about this, Thrive Nation, think about this. He was the business coach of Steve Jobs. Bill Campbell was the business coach of Jeff Bezos with Amazon. Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google, is writing a book. And do you know what his new book is about? It is about, I'll pull it up on the big screen, it is about Bill Campbell. Because he changed Eric's life. And Bill Campbell passed away fairly recently, but his legacy continues because Bill Gates did a TED Talk in May of 2013. May of 2013, he did a TED Talk, and he started off by saying everybody needs a coach. If you're out there today, whether you decide to hire our program or somebody else, everybody out there needs a coach. My name's Clay Clark. I am a business coach. I am passionate about your success, and I hope that this helps you to hold your team accountable. We like to end each and every show with a boom, and so now without any further ado, 3, 2, 1, boom!